For the sacrifices which you people made, now we are not called Madam Sir, we are only called Madam. So he must have complained to the chief minister. Next day at 7:30, I get a call on my hotline saying कि मुख्यमंत्री साहब आपसे बात करना चाहते हैं. And there on the other end was Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav. And he said, देखिए मैडम, इस तरह से पटना का क्राइम नहीं कंट्रोल हो सकता है. So I was still a little sleepy at 7, but I suddenly was wide awake. And I said, सर आप किस चीज़ का बात कर रहे हैं? So he says, no, ये इंसिडेंट हुआ है और आपने एक्शन लिया है पुलिस ऑफिसर्स पे, ये ठीक नहीं होगा. आपको पता नहीं है, you have just come. The crime control is very difficult and you will not be able to control crime. Something snapped inside me and I hit back. I can use the word hit back, but I snapped back and I said that, sir, I will not allow this. और ये हो ही नहीं सकता है मेरे टाइम में. और एक बच्चे को मार देना सही नहीं होगा. एंड आई गेव द होल सीक्वेंस ऑफ इवेंट्स दैट अ यंग 14-year-old child boy had snatched a purse from a woman and he belonged to a particular community, and she complained and the police got into action, fired, and he was dead. So I said, this is not fair. My son is 14 years old today and you also have a son 14 years old. And do you think it will be right if we bump them off for petty things which they do rather than to reform them? I do not believe. So he banged the phone down. Yes, Madam Sir is a nomenclature given by the police force. When I first joined Bihar, and a senior officer is talking to a junior officer, the only way he would reply is by saying, sir. Have you come back from leave? Sir. Are you going for this bandobast? Sir. They will never say any other word. The whole thing was only sir. So often the driver, my bodyguard, or everybody would be calling me sir. And then most of the time I was in uniform, but in the evenings I would wear a sari. I'm always in a sari or a suit. And I think they thought that it was something odd calling me sir all the time. And then gradually the subordinates started saying Madam Sir, and this word then struck and it went on and on. But I must tell you, recently when my book was published, a lady officer rang me up from Kerala, sir, and she said that for the sacrifices which you people made, now we are not called Madam Sir, we are only called Madam. So I think that was our success story.
So even till very recently, let's say 3-4 years back, I was in a conference room. There were just maybe about 150 people, and I was the only woman in that room. And someone, actually a senior, came up very concerned and asked me, "Are you okay, Harpreet?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay. What's it about?" And then I realized, why did he ask this question? And I turned around and realized that's when I realized that I was the only woman in that room, and he was probably checking on me कि इतने आदमियों के बीच में आप ठीक हैं, are you okay? But अब मैं क्या बोलूँ उनकी कि मैंने पूरी कैरियर में बहुत phases ऐसे रहे हैं that I have been the only woman in the room and I have learned to live with it. And I think there are advantages of that as well. So we'll talk about it as we go along. So I'll come back to what Mohit asked. And first of all, thanks Mohit for having me here, and thanks all of you for this coming in here. I will take just a slightly different aspect is, like you had the first day when you were asked, right, आपके साथ हम क्या करें, किरण मैम की फाइल देखेंगे, and then we'll see what do we do with you. Something very similar or in a different way happened is there was a consultant who called me at a point in my career, I'll not name the company, and then he said, would you be interested in this profile? I went through the JD, I said it sounded exciting. It was a senior vice president role, and I'm talking about 15 years back. And then I met the consultant, they assessed me, they sent my profile to the company. The CEO, the first meeting I have is with the CEO. The interview lasts for about an hour and a half. He sort of grills me to know whether I know my subject, blah, 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 all done. And then he said, can you please wait outside? I said, sure. Then I was said, we have another meeting with the group CEO. 30 companies ke head the. So you have a meeting with that group CEO. I said, okay, great. I'll go in. I was asked to come. I went and sat in front of this gentleman across a large table. And then he looks up very curtly and almost bordering on rudeness, asked me, what are you doing here? And I'm like, excuse me, I was asked to come in. I just met your CEO, Mr. So-and-so, and they have asked me to meet you. He said, but what are you doing here? We don't need a woman on this job. I was taken aback. I've never had such a blatant pushback given to me. And he said, this is not a job for women. And I'm talking about an HR head position and in an industry which was very, very tough and very complicated. And then he said, but this is not a job for a woman. I said, I didn't get it actually. It took me a few seconds to come to bearing. What is he trying to tell me? And then I said, okay, means? He said, there is no way we are going to hire a woman on this job. And I think you're wasting your time coming here. I was further taken aback. Then he spent the next 2 minutes telling me how bad that job was. That industry had a lot of goons. It had, they were across the country. There were a lot of complications in the business. And he spent literally 2 minutes telling me. And he said, it's shit, ma'am. I don't think you want to do it. And I'm like, I really don't know whether I want to do it. And then, what do we do now with you here? Presence of mind. And I said, since I'm here and you're also sitting across the table, we might as well have this conversation. He was now taken aback. And then he spent another 1+ hours with me conversing with me. And every second, 5 minutes, he told me why this was not a job a woman could do. It started with that. He said that this was not a job a woman could do. And that's where the journey started. Of course, got hired in the company. That's why I'm telling you the story. I was hired. I did get hired. And I joined. And I worked with this gentleman very well for the next few years. And the whole thing came around first, turnaround when he left the company, when he retired, and he called us all to his home for dinner. So again, in that dinner from the professional circle, I was the only woman. So we were there. And then he made a very public announcement. He says, you know what, and I really appreciate him for doing that. He said, you know what, I owe Harpreet an apology. And I'm like, what do you need an apology to me for? And he called everybody and said, you know what, I told her that this is not a woman's job, and she proved me wrong. Okay, and that was in front of the whole leadership and everybody. So it was like a whole turnaround story. And I'm sort of resonating with what she's saying. When you're sometimes the minority or the very few women in the room, I think the onus of performance also comes on you very hard. You're sort of, whether you like it or not, you feel you're carrying the responsibility of the other woman as well. Somewhere we pick it on unsolicited. And that's it. So that was just a perspective I wanted to share about being.
I have my very dear boss also sitting here with me. But let me tell you one thing that yes, the initial years, because in the police we did not have women, it was very tough to make a niche for yourself, to enter the workforce and move ahead in your careers. That was very difficult to establish. But I think after a few years, when people come to know that you are sincere, you are hardworking, and you are prepared to take on whatever responsibility is given, and you have built a trust in the organization, not only should your subordinates trust you, but your seniors should also trust you, then I think things become easier. And that you are a woman police officer is not very important at that time. And I think that after the initial 5-6 years, when it was really very tough to even find a place to sit in the building, I did not look back. And for that, I'm ever grateful for my posting to the police academy, that from there I could really take off. And the police academy posting also came because I had been an SP and I had done well. So I think that once people know that you mean business, then things move smoothly for you, and your bosses also accept you and they are ready to give you responsibilities. So I was lucky to have a good break where I was selected for the National Police Academy. And I had not thought that as a lady officer, I would be selected to train IPS officers. So when Mr. Julio Ribeiro contacted me and he said that he would like me to join at the academy, my husband and I, we decided on the spur of the moment that we would go because it was so tough managing things in Bihar, our postings and our being together, the children growing up. So we decided we'll go there. Yes, it was a very fortunate posting for me because I got a chance to train 5 batches of IPS officers, almost 500 officers. And by then, women had started trickling up in numbers. The numbers were increasing. Where we had Kiran Bedi in 1972 as a single woman, we started getting more and more women coming in. But still, the trickle was not like 60 women today against 240 IPS officers under training at the police academy this year. The numbers were still very small. But let me tell you, Mohit, that there were girls who were very, very frail, but never was there any girl who said that she wants to leave the service. So I must give credit to them. There were girls who would faint. There were girls who would, on the parade ground, just fall. They would not be able to do anything, but they carried on with a lot of grit. There were times when I had to plead with the AD in charge of outdoor that let this girl participate in the parade, don't hold her back because it's a question of a career. So I would say that I got a chance to see women in my own self with so much of grit and passion for doing whatever they were doing. But I must relate to you a case of 2 police officers. One of them was in my group, we did a lot of counseling, who said that he was an idealist and he thought that the police job was not meant for him and he wanted to leave. So I counseled him. I said, an idealist is needed in the police service. Why do you want to leave? Please continue. He was very reluctant, but he was a tall, strapping young man. He managed his outdoor training. In the IPS, the outdoor training is very tough. He did his training and continued, and then we lost touch. He went to Rajasthan and I went to Bihar, and we were in different planes working. Then I was in Bombay visiting my younger son, and then I get a call from somebody. Unknown number I picked up. There was this guy. I recognized him immediately. I could recall. Then मैं DG बन गया हूँ. I've become a DG of this state. I said, fantastic that you stuck to the service and today you are the DG. Nothing could be better than this. He said, I stayed in the service only because of you. I wanted to quit so many times and I thought that after taking charge, I should bring you up. So that is a matter of great satisfaction for me. And then there are also sad things. There were 2 officers who were allotted to Nagaland cadre. Nagaland cadre was just opening up. No officer had ever been to Nagaland and officers used to get ambushed and killed over there. So one officer came and gave his resignation letter. And he said that, ma'am, please accept this and forward it to the ministry. So I again counseled him. I said, don't leave this in a rush. Think about it. And I kept his letter. And today, this guy is one of very senior position in the UN, and he always laughs about his letter because after 2 months of his training, I tore that letter. But the unfortunate part was that the second guy who did not say that he would leave but died in an ambush. And that has remained as an anguish with me always, that what is it in store for young IPS officers? 2 go to the cadre and 1 goes to the UN and is all over the world, and 1 was snuffed out at just 2 years of his service.
My feeling is that somehow we continue with the colonial hangover of administration. It's not just police force, even in civil administration, IAS services. He would always say that it is terror which drives administration. So we tend to have a kind of a colonial hangover regarding any administrative post. And being in administration, educational administration, even when I joined, people would have the feeling that he's a soft guy with a very warm heart and he can't take tough decisions. So it has to be a person who can force compliances and make things work. So isn't this basically at the root of all the problems, that we have a very androcentric and a very colonial mindset about any administrative position. As a result, when you see a woman officer, so you feel that possibly she can't deliver on the job. Whereas the situation is that, like you mentioned, I was going through one of the cases where a boy was murdered in the bus, and when the person, your senior, called you and
He was
tried
very upset, yes.
he was being rude, and then you solved the case, and then you came in for praise. So I could clearly see that it is the application of the mind. It is your presence of mind, your capability to run the administration, and not just in an organization, be it a business organization, educational organization, or the public administration. So it's always the mind which scores. It's not brute physical force. So these are basically mindsets which we have allowed to perpetuate and color our perceptions and attitudes.
What do you say about that?
What do you say about it?
I think this might have been true some time ago, that there was a colonial mindset, and any job you want to get done, you have to show it with a lot of power, etc. But now I think that perception would have changed. I think that people are ready to accept you for what you are and what you are going to deliver. The delivery becomes more important now, how you are going to solve their problems and how they are going to be affected by your solving that problem. That has now taken center stage. And a lot of people today are expecting that from us rather than brute force in getting that thing done. This is what I feel now.
Madam Sir, thank you very much for such a lovely book. I mean, I've not gone through with the entire thing, but some gist of it, and I realized that this book really talks about your resilience and pressure which you have handled throughout the journey. I'm coming from a corporate world, and we often see in the leadership, it's always been difficult to make a balance between authenticity and authority, right? And especially in a male-dominated, department, you being the first one, how did you make a balance out of that?
I think authenticity will always take the higher plane for me. If you are authentic, everything else also will fall into place. So I do believe that values and doing the correct thing, a lot of things in the organization get sorted out if people know that you will always be on the correct path. So authority for doing the wrong things may last you for a very short while, but it is authenticity for doing the right thing with your values which will really last in any organization. And even for your personality development in the organization, I think authenticity, that is what I would vote for.
So I can read two lines very inspiring. To women who refuse to be fettered and who have the self-belief that they will find a path or make one. That's really inspiring. I've not gone through the book, but I was just going through the index and acknowledgements contents. So there is a transition in the chapter 1. We have a delicate daughter, while in 11th, it's Hunter Valley. So what made that transition for you, ma'am?
In fact, there was a joke that I was a delicate darling when I was being brought up. I was brought up by my grandparents, who were always very, very protective. They were very keen that I should study well, get good marks. I should learn everything which a housewife has to be taught, whether it was needlework or I was attending cooking classes. I should do painting, batik. So this is the way I was brought up. Good marks, I should do well in school. It was a lot of emphasis on that. But it was never said that you should become self-confident, you should drive, you should play games. And like now my granddaughter is here. She's a young girl, but our emphasis is on so many different things. She's learning golf, she's going for all kinds of games, getting involved with so many activities in school, but that was not allowed for us. That was a no. So people, even when I went to the academy, it was very tough for me because I broke my little finger, and the boys would laugh that the hat fell on her finger. That's why she got fractured. So it was always said that delicate darling hai. I never did any PT or parade ever. But when I went to Bokaro, that was my first posting of becoming an SP of a district, and after a lot of effort, whereas all my batchmates got districts immediately after their promotion, I was asked to sit in the CID because they didn't think me good enough for doing a field job. So almost 5-6 years I kept waiting, and one day when I was recovering from the birth of my second son, I got posted to Bokaro Steel City. I think that there was a lot of curiosity about who this SP is, because in Bihar, people had not seen anybody in a khaki uniform, and that too in a pant and shirt. It must have been a sight for them to see a young girl on a jeep. We used to have open jeeps in those days, all colored black. I'm surprised they didn't call me some epithet with black, but it must have been a surprise to them. And when I arrived there, Bokaro was very crime infested, and there had been a major incident before I arrived. That's why I was sent there. So people must have wanted to see me, whereas I was all the time on my jeep going from one end of the town to the other, and not many people had seen me. So because I was active, and because I was I was hunting people, as they would say, and there were stories circulating, so much so that the DIG told me one day that लोग कह रहे हैं कि इतनी तगड़ी SP आई है कि वो ट्रक पुश कर देती है तो ट्रक चल देता है. So these are the kind of stories they started talking about me. So I think that Hunter Wali also came, somehow they coined this, because I think I was everywhere, and they did not really see me but imagined me. I think that is what it is. I think that it is a choice which women have to make. If you want to do the best in your service, whichever job you're doing, whether you're doing in the corporate sector or in the government sector or in the education sector, wherever, even as a school teacher, if you want to do your job well and be respected, you have to give 100% to your job. But at the same time, you have to give enough time to your family, because they are also important and their expectations. And in an Indian family, we have the system of a joint family. There are expectations from your in-laws. Your parents may also be dependent. So the whole environment is something which you have to look after. And I think a working woman has to be a superwoman. I really believe that she has to be a superwoman, because she has to balance everything. Things are changing today, because I think men are now gearing up and they do come and help. In my case, my husband was always there, but often he was not there. But he was a big emotional support, and a support in many ways of saying that, no, you go ahead and do your job, I'll wait back, or asking me to wait, and he would move ahead. So I think if you are planning to be in a career and and have a family, it's important to decide what is your priority at what point in your life. That becomes important. And in the police job also, I had to sometimes take a back seat, because I was not getting a posting being in the first 6 years. But at times, there were times when we got separated. I was posted in Bokaro, he's posted in Munger, hundreds of miles away. There is no STD, there is no phone call. So they are tough things. It's not like that anymore. So I feel a woman has to balance. She has to balance. And even though men are helping out a lot in the family, it is the woman who has to take the burden more than the men. Her responsibilities do become much more. I have 2 daughters-in-laws. I have also very strongly encouraged them to take careers, because I feel that people should not be suppressed and said that, no, you only do this or you only do that. Give them freedom to do their job and manage their families. So I about Agnes, I would like to say that I have mentored a lot of women police officers and other officers also, that if you have a career like a police job or a job which is 24/7, it is very, very important for you to look after a very good home support, a support who will manage your home and treat your home as her own. And for that, you have to go out and treat that woman with respect, treat her well, or the man with respect, that they are able to help you continue in your job with lot of sincerity. Because if you cannot manage your home and you are running between your office and home all the time, it will not work. So I do encourage women officers and male officers who have working wives that first have a very stable help at home, go out of the way to have this support system, and then only can you go out. Plus, bringing up women in the household, they should be given freedom. Girls in the household who are coming up, I have two granddaughters also, I look at them and I see the difference, the way I was brought up and they are being brought up. Yesterday, my granddaughter was telling me that in her school, she's running a survey, a campaign. This will be of interest to some of you, that she's running a campaign. It's very interesting. I would have never been able to do something like this. She's running a campaign because in her school, the girls are made to wear salwar kameez and the men are wearing pant and shirt. She says, why can't the men also wear Indian clothes? Why only the women have to represent their culture? And she was showing me the survey and the point she's making up. I was so impressed. I mean, I can't think of doing something like this at her age. So I feel that families have to encourage women. We have to encourage them to have a good work-life balance, and they must have their own aspirations, which they must realize, both as a wife and as a working person, as a mother, as a person who holds everybody together. I think these are tough things to ask for, but there are support systems now available, and they do manage, and they are managing very well, I think.
Wow, fantastic. Harpreet, over to you now.
The same question you want me to
No,
respond?
not anything. Either ask a question or reflect on this.
Yeah, I think almost whatever you said is right, but I would want to acknowledge all the contribution that the male members of the
Yes.
family
We
make
have
to
to
your
also
careers.
acknowledge that.
So I have always gone up whenever I am asked to speak about my career. My first thanks, of course, goes to my father because he encouraged me for my education. My father-in-law, because I did my MBA after I was married and I had a daughter. So my daughter I'd done my master's from Delhi University, then got married, and I had a daughter. My daughter was about a year old when I started my MBA, and I used to travel from Delhi to Ghaziabad every day.
Wow.
And I don't know how I did it. If today somebody even gave me and we didn't have personal cars those times. If I tell you something, some of you will flip off or find me crazy. I used to change 4 buses, one way. Because if I just done 2 buses, I would have
That is some
it would have taken me
determination.
2 hours to reach my campus. Okay, but if I changed 4 buses, I did a hop skip here and there. I saved the time by half an hour, 45 minutes. So that 45 minutes one way, which was about an hour and a half both ways, was so important because I came home to a small child.
Yes. That becomes
So it
the
was
5 minutes
madness.
extra.
I think it was some sort of madness. It just said I needed to do it, and I don't think I could do it again if somebody asked me to do it again now.
No, I think you will do it again.
And so I'm just saying, it starts with all the small but very crazy things you end up doing. And so I said my father-in-law, because he was the one, and I was working, by the way. I was working ANZ Grindlays Bank, which was at that time having a job in a multinational bank was a big thing. And he encouraged me to leave my job and study. So I think there's another big thank you to my father-in-law, and of course my mother-in-law, who took care of my kids when I was doing all this crazy stuff, and my husband, who somehow always felt that I was made for better stuff or bigger stuff or whatever he thought. So he constantly, even today, nudges me to karo, you should fulfill what you want to do. So I think there is a huge part. So while we do this women's story or the gender story, there is no taking away the contribution and that all the men make in our lives, and I do want to mention it now. And my son, for example, of course my daughter encouraged me, my son is always behind me. You know, mom, you should do it. So I think that society is changing. There is a whole lot of opportunities that women have, and I'm so happy to hear a conversation when we actually not talking about women, because I can tell my own view. I do not. It's a personal experience, a small one. Let me share that. I remember having, during my early days of my career as a working professional, I would go to office, I would do my meetings, I'd do whatever, and come back. And suddenly somebody I heard this rumors that come in. जैसे एक नई लेडी ऑफिसर आई है, पता नहीं कटर पटर इंग्लिश में बात करती हैं और फिर अपना काम करा के चली जाती है. I found this cutter putter was one part which I was not very impressed with. कि मेरी English cutter putter वाली है, चलो, मतलब it was a prim and proper English. And then, but what hurt me at a personal level was woman officer आई है. It sort of hit me. मैंने कहा यार सारे लोग वही काम तो कर रहे हैं. Why are you pointing me out? I didn't say it, of course, but it's my internal dialogue. Saying, why you say I'm a woman officer? How does it matter? I'm a professional coming here to work. Whether you're a man or a woman, you're paid the same. Hopefully, we are all paid similarly. We have wage equality, and then we're doing our stuff. And then why would you do that? But it took me you'll find it a little unusual. It took me some introspection. It was a very deep introspection. I realized, you know what? People first see me and then hear me. So they first see me, and what do they see? They see the body, they see a woman, they see a sari, they see a juda or bindi or whatever. They're first seeing you. So the first assessment of you is as a woman, whether you like it or not. And then they hear you, whatever you have to say. So it was a deep, insightful message for me, because after that I stopped troubling myself about this woman-gender conversation. I said, that's the way I am, and there's no way I can change it. I'm going to wear my sari, trouser, whatever, and that's the way people are going to relate to me. So let me focus on what people hear when I speak. So that was sort of a shift.
Very well said.
So I focused on my work, my contribution, and when I speak, what do people hear when I speak?
Myself, Anil Pathak. I am a IEEE Executive Council Delhi chapter. I have been a constant visitor here in Aerocity Friends of Book. And one thing I've seen many leaders here, be it Major General retired, Major General active, IP police, IAS, IPS, and many leaders from corporate. One thing I have figured out, as senior they are, they're very humble and very simple. That's one thing. And second thing, they have a constant desire to learn. And what best learning you can do other than by reading books? And that's what Friends of Book is all about. Thank you.
Hi, Utsav is a beautiful place. I think it's vibrant with color, it's vibrant with energy, and it's vibrant with a lot of amazing conversations that go on in this place. I'm always very happy to come in here, and I hope people enjoyed today's session.
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम धीरज है और मैं उत्सव के आयोजनों में आता रहा हूँ। उत्सव में हर बार एक नए विषय पर बातचीत होती है, एक नए आयाम पे बातचीत होती है। आज के जो विशेष जो आज मैं आया यहाँ पे, जो प्रोत्साहन मुझे मिला, जो कह सकते हैं आपके जीवन का एक आधार, जीवन का एक सार सुनने को मिला, वो अद्भुत था। उत्सव में मेरे हिसाब से जिस तरीके के विचारों पे, विषयों पे बातचीत हो रही है, वो बहुत ही अद्भुत है और आगे भी आशा करूंगा कि वो इस विचारधारा को आगे बढ़ाते रहें। सामाजिक सवालों को जिस तरीके से उठाया जा रहा है और जिस तरीके से उसके जवाब दिए जा रहे हैं इस स्थान पे, वो बहुत ही प्रशंसनीय है। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you for asking me to say something about today's function. Coming to Aerocity for these functions by Friends of Books is always a wonderful experience, because there's always something that we learn. Every time we come, we learn something new. This time it was about this distinguished police officer of the state of Bihar, Mrs. Manjari Jarohar, and her experience as a young police officer till the time she retired as IG of police. A fantastic story, which I hope everybody will read in Madam Sir. I encourage all of you to come to these discussions because you have a lot to learn. Thank you very much.
So it was a really nice event this evening to come to Friends of Books and have a discussion about my book, Madam Sir. The program was very neatly organized and the audience was also very perceptive. They asked very good questions and on the whole it was a very nice experience for me.